How you doing, Prem?
I'm very well, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Now, every for the past sort of 13 times in a row that the Bank of England have decided to put up interest rates in an attempt to reduce inflation. And this week they've topped they've done a big one of 0.5% more, and it's now 5%. I'm just going to play a clip of the governor of the Bank of England just talking about why he's done this, and also the response of Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor. It's only a couple of minutes.
We have in the last few minutes been hearing from the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey. Let's have a listen to what he's had to say.
Yeah, we have to get inflation back to target. We have to have price stability, and we've raised interest rates to do that. We've seen strength in the economy. I think there is good news in this. The economy has been more resilient. It's been stronger. We've got very low unemployment, but it is leaving us with inflation looking much more persistent. We think inflation is going to come down markedly this year, but there are signs of it being more persistent. And I thought it was right that we took this action, and this decisive action today.
Well, for what this means for households, how will this feel for many people around the country?
Well, I understand the difficulty and the pain it causes for many people, and I do understand that. What I would say, though, is that if we don't get inflation back down to target, then it goes on for much longer, and the pain goes on for longer, and none of us want that.
Some people, you've said that you'll do anything it takes to try to bring inflation down. Does that include potentially precipitating a recession?
Well, we're not seeking to precipitate a recession, and we've got an economy that is much stronger and more resilient than we expected it to be. Part of that is because energy prices have come down so much, which is good news. It's good news. So we're not desiring a recession, but we will do what is necessary to bring inflation down to target.
Do you think the Bank of England, as an observer, as someone who formerly used to work there, but as an observer now, do you think the Bank of England has embarked upon the correct strategy and in a timely fashion when it comes to interest rates to curb inflation?
I'm not going to comment on the decisions by the Bank of England. That would undermine the independence of the Bank of England. But I would, if I was Chancellor today...
You could comment on the impact it's having, couldn't you? Because it's a strategy that many are criticising and saying actually the bank is deaf.
I think the focus of somebody who wants to be the next Chancellor of the Exchequer should be on what government should do and what government needs to do. And that is about respecting economic institutions, a strong set of fiscal rules to get the public finances back in order, and then a plan to boost the security, the resilience and the growth in the UK economy.
There you go, Prem. I mean, the Bank of England he was effectively saying that recession is possible, and he's not doesn't think that's such a big deal as long as inflation goes down. He said that was a priority above all else. And the fact is, inflation hasn't gone down for 13 attempts that he's tried to do this. Households are really struggling with this increase. The Labour Party is saying it won't interfere with the Bank of England's control over interest rates. Surely that is an open goal for Labour, just to say this is unacceptable, we should reduce them. Why is Rachel Reeves not willing to entertain the idea of actually interfering and putting the interest rates down in some way?
Maybe that will keep Rupert Murdoch and others happy that Labour leadership is totally emasculated, won't really do anything to upset giant corporations who are profiteering, which is really the root cause of our inflation. You can hike up interest rates as much as you like. That won't make any dent in profiteering. And the fact that inflation rate has come down is purely for arithmetical reasons, that the energy price hikes of a year ago have dropped out. But if you look at the food prices, they are really rising at a very rapid rate, which is huge hardship for people. So it is really a wrong policy. It is a blunt tool, and it is hurting the people who already haven't got the cash. They haven't caused this inflation, and they should really be going after giant corporations, which is what they are not really doing. So the result of this continuous hike is mortgage repayments would rise, rents would rise, because many landlords will pass on the higher interest costs to tenants, though they would always be slow to reduce rents. They probably won't reduce them at all. There will be knock-on effect on transport, food, and many other prices, because a lot of businesses rely on overdrafts and loans. But the worst thing is that the government itself will be handing possibly £30 billion or more of public money to banks, because it has to service the public debt. That is an absolutely crazy move. And then they will be saying, oh, well, now we have to cut public services even more because we are making the banks richer. But ask yourself, what exactly are the banks going to do with this money that the government is handing them? And also people are being forced to pay over to banks. Well, banks will make higher profits. They will pay higher dividends, which will obviously increase inequalities and the social squalor. Banks will have more money to speculate on anything they want, whether it's food prices, commodities, and everything else. I mean, this is just an absolutely crazy policy. It is based on two major assumptions. One is that people have so much cash that they are chasing relatively few goods, and they somehow need to be deprived of that cash. That is not true. The second assumption is that the state controls money supply. Well, that simply is not true either, because banks are creating about 97, 98% of all the money that is circulating around. And these hikes won't really affect that in any serious way. So we have wrong policies at the wrong time. What we really need to do is introduce price controls, curbs on profiteering, which would include 100% windfall tax on excess profits at banks, supermarkets, and others. There's a wonderful piece of research published by Unite, the trade union, showing how profit margins have rocketed at major corporations. And that is what you actually have to attack. Corporations have declared a war on the people, and the governments have to side with the people. But this government is not actually doing that, and even worse, the government in waiting is really going along with that. So things like price controls, windfall taxes need to be accompanied by a bit of democracy. That could be, for example, letting the customers vote on executive pay at banks, insurance companies, water, and other companies, because you can identify customers with certainty, their names and addresses. You can specify a criteria that if you've been a customer for more than a year, you become eligible to vote. And that can help, again, chief executives think twice about hiking a profiteering rate and giving themselves a barrel load of money whilst inflicting poverty on the masses. So we need major changes, but no political party is up to it.
Well, look, you've written an article in the Byline Times. I'll just show the screenshot. Why left-wing Labour members, including politicians like me, feel stifled by Keir Starmer's leadership. Keir Starmer has closed off policy making and refuses to engage with critical voices, writes Prem Sikka. Now, at the end of the article, you've written, with self-imposed straitjackets on borrowing, taxes and public investment and a continuation of Tory austerity, how will Labour rejuvenate the economy? Such questions will become critical during the next election, and any backtracking and incoherence could be damaging. Starmer-led government may be tempted to emulate the 1997 Labour administration and accept the constraints of the Tory financial plans for the early years of the government. That would be catastrophic. People have seen their living standards erode. The average wage today is unchanged since 2005, and the hospital waiting list in England stands at 7.4 million. Failure to address people's aspirations would rapidly lead to disenchantment with Labour and create a crisis of legitimacy. Labour needs to develop better, robust policies. So Keir should start by broadening the policy-making space and engaging with critical voices. Now, you're being very helpful to Keir Starmer there by pointing out that he'll find himself in a bad position if he does get elected Prime Minister, if he doesn't have any policies. But What happens when you talk to him or Rachel Reeves or anyone in the shadow treasury kind of department?
Well, first of all, they're not really accessible to most members of parliament. I have had one meeting with Rachel Reeves. That was July last year. She was going to come back to me after that for a mini kind of a conference, but that never happened. As regards Keir Starmer, all you get is a chance to put a 20, 30-second question at the PLP meeting, and that is about it. You can send policy proposals, papers to designated individuals. I have done that ever since Keir first became a leader. You don't even get an email acknowledgement, never mind any serious engagement. We don't actually fully know who the inner circle is, but we do know that individuals from major banks and scandal-ridden accounting firms are on the inside track. And this is why you are getting the kind of policies. In my view, the policies they are talking about are failed policies. Let me just give you some examples. On one hand, we have austerity, we have lack of economic stimulus, and it was to address that the 2019 manifesto said that we would abolish university tuition fees. So one positive benefit of that is that you put more money into people's pockets who come from generally low middle class families. Now, when Labour says it is backtracking on the need to abolish university fees, what they're saying is that they're removing about £9.5 billion from spending, everyday spending. That is bad. So when Labour is backtracking on free childcare for children above 9 months of age, what they are saying is that more parents, especially women, can't go to work. At the same time, the country is screaming for more workers. So when Labour is backtracking on its £28 billion of green investment, what it is saying is that we are also backtracking on the commitment to provide clean energy, that is their phrase, by 2030, to stimulate investment in the former industrial heartlands, create new jobs. It is backtracking on all those things. And the main reason for that is this obsession with and Rachel Reeves used that again, fiscal responsibility. If we decode that, what that says is that we are going to reduce public borrowing, which is understandable within the Tory framework. But what that really means is we are going to continue with austerity. Look, after the Second World War, the Attlee government's borrowing hit 270% of the UK GDP. It laid the foundations of the welfare state. It laid the foundations of the NHS. It renewed investment in many ailing industries, railways, water, gas, electricity, shipping, steel, you name it. It provided the foundations ultimately for public investment in aerospace, biotechnology, information technology, and created new jobs, mainly because the private sector has no appetite for long-term risks of that kind into unknown territories. You know, we have the City of London, which is supposed to be a big financial center, yet UK businesses are absolutely starved of investment. We are ranked at number 27 in the OECD top 30 countries league for investment. So you can't rejuvenate the economy by saying, oh, we are simply not going to borrow. The question is, borrow for what purpose? And we also have to relieve poverty. If people haven't got money in their pocket, they're not going to buy goods and services. That is why the business world is not really investing. You know, the world of business has been on an investment strike in the UK for the last possibly 3 decades, mainly because the workers' share of GDP has been decimated from 65.1% in 1976, that is in the form of wages. Now it is barely 50%. No other Western country has experienced that decline in the workers' share of GDP. So for politicians to simply say we are not going to change course, they are storing up problems. I'm sure Labour is likely to win, and I hope it does win the next election. But if it is not willing to deliver, people will be utterly disenchanted. And our young people would be ripe for recruitment by the far right, because the message would be, look, Labour, Tories, Lib Dems, they're all singing from the same hymn sheet. Nobody's offering you a better future. Come to us. Young people will be enrolled by the right because the left is not that well organized to offer a home to disenchanted youth. Trade unions are not really offering any political homes, and we don't have many other left-leaning parties. So in that sense, I wrote the article because I'm really fearful about the future. And I feel that the next election could be pivotal in changing the direction where we ought to be going. But I can't see corporate-funded political parties in all of the 1% really wanting to change the course. So therefore, it is up to us, the people, to generate pressure in the streets, at the grassroots, to see how we can change this.